Hey guys, so I thought I'd do a video on my hamster story so far. So, not many of you know how I ended up with 5 pet hamsters, and quite a few people think I'm totally crazy for having 5 hamsters, but it will be explained. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about my previous hamsters first. So, when I was 7 years old, I got my first ever hamster. So basically, I was going through like a real hard time. My parents got divorced, my dad took all of the pets which we had with him. He left us with literally nothing, and I had confidence issues, I had nervous issues, I just couldn't deal with it all, so I needed someone or something to turn to. So I asked my mum for a pet hamster. So she went to Pets at Home and bought me this beautiful short-haired Syrian hamster who was grey and had black cheek flashes. I named her Millie, and she lived in a Savick Cambridge cage, and they still actually sell that cage now, which I'm pretty surprised at. So she lived for approximately 4 years old, which was really good age for a Syrian hamster. And within a few months of getting Millie, my mum went into the local pet shop. I think she went to go get some bedding or food, and saw a sign saying hamsters free to good home. And when I came home from school, there was just another cage sitting in my bedroom, and I was like, Mum, what's going on? And she explained to me that there were these hamsters being given away for free because they had deformities, so like some of them were missing feet, some of them were missing toes, and she came home with another Syrian hamster for me. So this time this hamster was male and he was brown, so he looks exactly like Coco does, and we named him George, and he lived for about 4.5 years. He was actually the last hamster to pass away, and he was just such a happy hamster. He was missing toes on his feet, and it didn't stop him from doing anything. He was just such a crazy hamster. He lived in a Critter Trail 3 until he got too fat for the tubes. Then we moved him into a ride-on cage. I can't remember if that's the right name for it, but it had like 2 metal levels and then a base as well. And back then nobody knew about cage sizes, and no one knew about bumblefoot or anything like that, so it was just a standard hamster cage with wire floors. So within a year of having Millie and George, my friend came over to my house, and she walked in the house with this hamster, and I was like, Jess, what are you doing? And she like handed this cage over to me. She's like, have a hamster. And I was like, do you not want her? And she's like, no, she smells, she's horrible. And this hamster actually got given to my friend by her cousin, who got given to her by a friend, and I was this hamster's 5th owner anyway. And she was a long-haired white Syrian hamster who was called Snowy, and she lived in a Cry-Seti 9, I think, from Pets at Home. They still sell them, and they're really tiny. So she lived in there, and the only reason people didn't want her was because she smelt when she was on heat, and everyone was like, I don't want her, she stinks, get rid of her. And I was just like, I'll have her, I don't care. So I already had 2 hamsters. This other hamster isn't going to make a difference. So I got her, and she lived, I had her for 2 years, so I think she was about 3 years old when she passed away. And she was an escape artist. She managed to escape from her cage, because when I was little I had like all the cages stacked on top of each other. So she opened the door on her cage, climbed down the bars of the other cages, jumped off on my bookshelf, ran into my mum's room, ran under my mum's bed and everything, and then she peed on my mum. And my mum shouted at me, she's like, Laura, come and get your hamster. It was just so funny, and that is the one memory which will always live with me. I mean, I've got like some great memories from Millie and George too, but that one memory from Snowy, it's just crazy. So when all my hamsters passed away, I moved on to a rabbit who was called Patch, as most of you already know. And then Patch got put to sleep because he had a tumour. I went back to owning hamsters. So I ended up with Cookie Monster, and she's a Syrian hamster, and she's an Umbros Gordon, I think she is, long-haired, and she's from the Pets at Home Adoption Centre, and she lived in a Perfecto gerbil tank for like the first week, and then she got upgraded to an iMac, and now she's in the hamster heaven. So Cookie Monster is currently 2 years old, going very strong. She's currently recovering from her illness and she's doing very well. So yeah, she's doing really good for an old girl. So she will be, I would have had her 2 years old in July, but because she was adopted I didn't know her actual age. I think she was about 6 months old when I got her. So within a month of getting Cookie Monster I went back to Pets at Home. I think my mum needed dog food, and because she buys the dog food like monthly, I went to Pets at Home with her, and I ended up with Elmo. So yeah, basically I did this was still in some holidays, so I got my results from my first year in college, where I got distinction stars, and I also got an A grade in my EPQ. So I went into Pets at Home. My mum's like, come on, we're going to look at the adoption centre. So I ended up with Elmo, who's my Chinese hamster, because I did really well in my exams and everything like that. So that's how I ended up with her. Again, she was adopted. She was around 6 months old when I got her, and she's just the cutest thing I've ever seen. I've never really seen dwarf hamsters before. As soon as I saw Elmo, I was just like, I want that one, and she came home with us. And then within 2 months of owning Elmo, went back to Pets at Home with my mum again. Ended up with Speedy Gonzales, who is a Robovoski, and I had to beg so badly for him. So basically we got the dog food, went to McDonald's to get a drink, and we sat in like the car park, and I was just like sitting there with my stepdad. I'm just like, can I have the hamster? Can I have the hamster? Can I have the hamster? For an hour. And he's just like, you're not going to give in, are you? I was just like, no. He's like, right, we're going to give Pets at Home then. Started swearing at me. He's like, you're getting the hamster and you're having no more. And I was like, okay. So ended up with Speedy Gonzales, who lives in a mini doona just like Elmo does. And then January last year, went into Pets at Home. Ended up bringing home Ziggy. Ziggy is my Russian hamster, and he lives in a mini doona, and walked past the adoption centre, and he was the only hamster in the adoption centre at the time. I stood there, my mum stood there, my stepdad stood there, and he's just like, really cute he is, because you have like the metal kind of things which stop like the hamsters from getting to the glass bit or something, and he was rubbing himself up against them. He was trying to climb out of it, squeeze through it. It was just so cute. And my stepdad walked off, and me and my mum wondered where he went. He went to go talk to the woman at the counter about adopting him without me and my mum even knowing. He's like, get yourself a cage, get some food, get some bedding, it's coming home with us. And we were deciding what we were going to call him in the shop, and we all decided on Ziggy. So ended up with him, and then we ended up with Coco. So Coco is a Syrian hamster. I can't actually remember the month I got her in. It was either March or May, I can't remember which one, and we ended up with Coco. So I didn't actually know I was getting Coco because I bought Cookie Hamster Heaven cage, and then I had the iMac Fantasy, which was spare, and I was about to put it on eBay, and my mum phoned me. She goes, have you sorted that iMac Fantasy out yet? I'm just like, I've cleaned it out, I've just got to put it on eBay. And she's like, don't put it on eBay. I was like, why? She's like, because we just got you a new hamster. And I was like, cool. So she phoned me up telling me you got a hamster, and Coco did not make it home in the box. She chewed the box apart, and my mum literally had to put her hand over the top of the box, and then Coco started biting my mum's hand, and when she got home there was literally no box left. And bearing in mind Pets at Home is a 15-minute drive away from here. Coco is the only hamster who isn't adopted right now, so all of my others were adopted. Coco my mum actually got from like the baby section bit in Pets at Home, and the reason they did that was because they wanted me to have a baby hamster again, because I hadn't had a baby hamster since Millie, so it was like 10 years since I had a baby hamster. And I was like, well, you should have adopted it. And I was like, you should have adopted her, I wanted an adoption one. She's like, we wanted you to have a baby one because we know, like, you know, you can watch them grow then. So I ended up with Coco, and she lived in an iMac Fantasy cage and has recently been upgraded to an Alaska cage. So that is like literally my whole hamster story. Quite a long story really. So up to now I've owned 8 hamsters and I just love them to pieces. So that is my pretty crazy hamster story. Yeah, I just thought it'd be like nice for me to sort of like do a video on this and let people know why I have so many hamsters, because everyone's like, oh my god, how do you have time for them all and how do you cope and stuff, and I'm just like, it's not about coping. I love them, I'll make time for them, you know. I can quite happily have the time to look after them all, clean them all out and everything like that. So yeah, that is the story, and thank you for watching, guys, and if you stayed to watch the whole of this video then you're pretty awesome, because this is like 10 minutes long. So yeah, I'm gonna go now and stop babbling, and thank you for watching. Bye!